Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on ESPN 790 AM, brought to you proudly by the Tennessee Wildlife and Resources Agency.
Hey, welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray. We talk summertime crappie fishing here in the Mid-South. Appreciate visiting with the one and only Ronnie Capps up at Reelfoot, and we went back to Reelfoot with Tim Blackley. Let's head down south. Let's go to the guy that knows Sardis about as well as anybody. He's got his own guide service, JH Guide Service on Grenada. He knows it. He's fished Grenada over 40 years. I'm not aging him or anything like that, but one of the guys that's on my bucket list to go crappie fish with it, and that's John Harrison. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
We're doing great, and I know I talked to John the other day and just checked in with him on Thursday, and he was out fishing by himself, and that tells me how much he loves to fish for crappie in the summertime. So let's talk, John, a little bit about summertime crappie fishing. I know you know Grenada, you know Sardis, and all these different kind of lakes, but a lot of people have the perception, as I've told our two in-studio guests here, that you crappie fish in the spring and the fall, and then you duck hunt in the winter. I mean, that's what a lot of people think. But summertime crappie fishing is still a good time, right?
It's most definitely a good time to fish. It's just hot. And most of the time, you can't get nobody to go with you when that sun gets up about 100 degrees here in Mississippi.
Yes.
But wintertime fishing is great. I remember fishing years and years ago. You would see a few people out, locals, in the springtime, and you would see a very few in the fall fishing for a week or two. And then we fished all summer and all winter. When it was cold, the ground was spewed up. You never see nobody. You'd hear people shooting deer, shooting ducks and deer. But, we was in the rivers fishing. The colder, the better. It really didn't matter. Same way with summertime. I've had some real good fishing trips in the last 2 weeks, and I've had some that wasn't so good, but that's just summertime crappie fishing. But about a week ago or a week and a half ago, I had two of the best days, as good as I had in the spring. I think it was on a Monday and Tuesday about a week ago. Just summertime fishing. I got out there about 7 o'clock, and 8:30 and 9 o'clock, I done had my limit.
And what did you do different on that day than you did the other days?
Not hardly a thing, except normally when I'm single pole jig fishing in the summertime when the lakes are high. If I'm at Sardis, I'm fish stick ups. We've had an abundance of rain, and these lakes are really, really high.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. Yeah,
these crappies love the bushes. They got plenty of forage in there. They got plenty of oxygen in there, and the main thing, they got shade in there, and that water's cool, and they love to be. They like that. It's 15, 17 foot of water in a lot of these bushes, and a lot of them's covered.
Yeah.
Well, they're green. Well, I've noticed with using this live scope jig fishing.
Here we go.
Up under there.
Live scope. You've mentioned the word, man.
Well, I can look under there and see them, but I really didn't use it that much. There were so many in those bushes for a couple of days there. Once I get up to that bush, I can't really see them in there. It's just all red. So
yes.
I mainly use it just to find those underwater bushes, and once I find them, I just old school jig fish right in the top of them.
Okay.
And you get about one out of, sometimes if you're lucky, you get one out of every three out, but some days I don't get but one out of every 4 or 5 out. But I certainly like fishing for them in the summertime.
And again, we're talking to John Harrison, a good friend out of Mississippi, JH Guide Service, and a member that anybody that knows these lakes down there, John does. And we've talked earlier with Mike and with Robbie on this. John, you've been doing this a long time, and we've talked to the other guys. Live scope has been the thing now. And
it is.
And then you've looked at this and said, boy, look at what we've done, where we've come from, and where we are now. What could possibly be in the future? But talk about the use of live scope in the summertime. You said you don't really have to use it if you can find the fish. So we've talked about target fishing here with the live scope. So talk about the benefits of this and what it's done to crappie fishing.
Well, if you learn how to use it, it's a great thing. I hate mine, but I sleep with it at night. I love it. So I guess they could say that.
We've talked about that. That's what everybody said. You can't buy it on a Friday and use it on a Saturday. Okay, I mean this is something.
Right. Oh, the first 6 months with mine, and I was fishing for 4 or 5 days a week. I wanted to kick mine off in the river. I mean, I couldn't see no fish. I said, this thing's lying. I know it's fish here because, I've been catching them here for 50 years. I know there's some here, but it don't lie. Once you learn how to use it, I guess if you learn how to use it, it's a great thing. And I'll have to admit, when I was catching those fish a week ago, they was under the shades of cypress. And that's where I had been missing them for like 8 or 10 days. I'd been catching a few in those ironwood bushes. That's what we call them down here. But those fish went to those cypress trees for shade. And like old school, we just pitch a cork, out there about 10 foot and let it float up in the shade.
That's old school.
Let that minnow just swim down there about 10 foot.
Yeah.
And that crappie would come out from under there. Well, those 2 days I was watching them. And I couldn't get under there, but I would pitch in the shady part of that and let it go down beside it. And you'd look up under there, and it'd be 3 or 4 sitting under there, and all of a sudden, here come one of them out of there, just easing out of there. And when he'd get up, that water was real clear, and once they'd get about a foot, here they'd come, boom, and they'd hit that jig. I've had so much fun. I mean, they was hitting like bats coming out under there. But you had to target the shady. Once that sun got up at about 11 or 12 o'clock, you had to look at that cypress and find that whichever side the shade was on, and that's the side that they was favored.
Well, you're an old school now. I don't want to interrupt you here, but you've been doing this a long time, John. I mean, and see where we were and where we are now in crappie fishing, and then we never talked about summertime crappie fishing. I didn't much on this show, but you as a guide. You want to catch fish every time you go, and how long you been doing? How long you been crappie fishing?
Well, I come along in '63. My grandmother opened a bait shop in 1957 in Bruce. She started carrying me, I guess, when I was about 5 or 6 years old. Your
grandmother had a bait shop?
In 1957, it was Gordon's Bait Shop. I still got some old newspaper clippings where it said Gordon's Bait Shop open 24 hours a day. Ring bell for it said ring bell for service. And they lived in the back of it, and all the they had, it was just, of course, it was amazing to me, all the corks and the poles and all that. I just grew up as a kid.
Yeah. But to now to know this, and you've been doing this for a long time. I imagine your grandma would not be selling live scopes in the bait shop.
She knew I had one, she'd whoop me. I remember the first jig, her and an old lady named Miss Kistner. I was sitting in the middle of the boat, and that B&M it was an old telescopic pole. And I took a needle and I tied it to the end of the line, and I put that needle in the back, and I shook it all the way down for that needle to come out. At the end, of course, back then we didn't have no 6 or 8 pound test line. All we had was 30 or 40 pound test Mills In. That was the name of it. Just a cheap line. It was called Mills In. And Betts made jigs, Betts, and I guess it was but one color. As I remember, as a kid, there was a red. It was red with yellow.
You had to have that. That's the only color they had.
It's the only color they had. Well, I tied one on the end of my pole, and it was an accident. I was dragging it by a stump, and I caught one with that jig.
And that was it.
That was it. Yeah, that done it right there. From then on, I'd want to jig fish. Well, all she'd want to do was pitch that cork. She could catch them. Now, my grandmother could catch them. I've got some pictures of her and Miss Laney back in the early '60s. Was just stringers of crappie they caught out of Grenada Lake.
Out of Grenada Lake. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Then when they first, now, as I remembered, and Mr. Bud Logan was still alive today and still fishing. He's in his 80s. He told me that when they built that lake in '57, all they could catch in there for the first year or two was bass. It was a couple of years before they ever started catching those crappie out of there.
Right. Yeah.
And you couldn't just motor, across the lake. It was so much timber. And I remember as a kid in the late '60s, all that hardwood timber just flooded out there, and I'd see people all out in those woods out there fishing.
Yeah.
But it's all changed. It's been a lot over the last 50 years.
It's been a lot. So do you think, if there's a world record, in what lake would you say in North Mississippi would that world record crappie come out of?
I don't know.
Come on, John. Come on now.
It'd be between Grenada and Arca Butler.
There you go. Well, that's what our two guys. That's our two guys sitting here shaking their heads, and they're agreeing with that.
If they would get a little more age on them like they used to, it's so many, and myself, guides and people fishing now. It came, technology and all. It came people, they love crappie fishing, and you'll see a numerous amount of boats even during the week.
Yes, even now.
And years ago, there wasn't no trolling poles. You didn't see nobody out jig fishing. I mean, in the summer months here, we'd run all over the lake. You wouldn't see a boat nowhere. You might see a skier. Now, you might count 30 or 40.
Well,
I would say it's going to be between Arca Butler and Grenada now.
Okay, we're going to come back and remember we're out of time. I wanted to get that in. John Harrison. So tell our people how they can get in touch with you, John.
You can call me on my cell phone, 662-983-5999. Or you can call me or text me anytime. It stays open 24 hours a day. It stays on. And
you can go to Facebook, look up John Harrison, JH Guide Service. You can find
You can find me on Facebook, JH Guide Service.
And this guy knows crappie fishing, buddy. John, thank you, man, for spending time with us. And me and my wife, we're going to get down there. Don't give up on us, okay, man?
Yes, sir.
All right, John. You have
a
great day, buddy.
You have a great morning. Yes,
All
sir.
Right, we'll talk to you. All right, let's take a break on Outdoors with Larry Ray. Wrap this baby up with the one and only Billy Blackwood. Oh, man. We may have to keep him on for another hour. We'll be right back.